When I think of Columbia Records in the late 60s, the first artist that comes to mind is Bob Dylan. Did you have any encounters with Dylan?
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I was over at A&R Studios, and they called me up and they said, they need you over at Studio B. There's a session there that you need to take over, and Don Palouse was working on. And I said, okay, great. And I got over there, and it said closed session, no one admitted.
Mhm.
And I went, oh, what am I supposed to? Oh, and I said, wait, oh no, I work here, I can go. I actually thought for a second, oh, how do I work this out? And I walked in, and there's Bob Dylan, Bob Johnson, who I had worked with before, with a guy named Richie Super, great songwriter for, was it April Blackwood Music? No, Screen Gems, I think. He wrote for Screen Gems. So I knew Bob Johnson, and there was Bob Dylan, and next to him is George Harrison,
Mhm.
and next to him is Russ Kunkel, and there's Peter Asher's mulling around, and I can't really remember. There were a few other people there, but those were the ones that I remember. And I was pretty excited about that, and at some point when George and I got comfortable with each other, I asked him questions about Sgt. Pepper, and we discussed, he revealed that they used 2 4-track Studers, whereas at that point everybody knew they used a 4-track machine, but
Mhm.
he revealed that they went 4 to 4. So it wasn't just 4-track.
Mhm.
Plus they had 1-inch 4-track machines. We were using 1/2-inch 4-tracks, so that gave you the ability to get a little more clean level on the tape
Mhm.
for that overdubbing. And his enthusiasm about Abbey Road, at which point he revealed that he had never been in the control room really before and had any say in anything.
Mhm.
And he seemed thrilled that he would come into the control room and say, you know, John, why don't you play this? And
Yeah.
you know, Paul, how about that? Ringo, do that. And then he said, you know, and then I went outside, and John would come in, and then he'd have things to say.
Really?
And he said that was great because he really participated in that album.
Uh-huh.
And I thought that was, you know, amazing that it took that long for him to actually have a real say in
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
Beatles record.
Yeah.
So that was a great
Uh-huh.
couple of nights there doing that.
And you later went on to work with George on some of his own projects?
No, wouldn't that have been nice? No, I worked with Peter Asher as a result of that, who was
Okay.
at the session. And, you know, Peter had produced James Taylor and Linda Ronstadt and Stevie Nicks, and he was actually the background singer on James's first album. So he had a
Uh-huh.
great ear for harmonies, which I loved, you know,
Mhm.
because I was formerly from a singing group.
Sure.
So we did an album with Russ Kunkel, a girl named Barbara Solomon, a guy named Tony Kosinek,
Mhm.
which is still kind of a cult album. You can find it on the internet now. You know.
Is this the Wallflower record you were talking
No,
about?
oh no, that's those recordings that I did with George and Dylan. According to Don DeVito, his producer, you know, I asked him one day, I said, well, whatever happened to those recordings?
Mhm.
Because we had an argument about me getting a gold record from Bob Dylan. The only gold and platinum album at that time was Desire.
Mhm.
And I didn't work on the Desire album, but I did work on these recordings with Dylan. And I said, you know, I was opening up a studio, and
Right.
he said, no, I'm not giving anybody any gold records.
Which recordings did you work on with Dylan? What
Well, that
album
was
it?
well, that's what he explained, was that those became released on a single-sided LP and packaged with another LP.
Right.
And they named it Wallflower, which
So it was
apparently
Bob and
became
George.
Bob and George and
Yeah.
Russ and I don't remember the bass player's name.
I know they wrote together. I know they wrote If Not For You together. Was that song on that?
No, these were more kind of, you know, bluesier pieces.
Uh-huh.
And so I said, well, you know, JP, who ran this nightclub in New York, that
Mhm.
I helped develop the sound for that club in the 70s, had gotten a gold record for Desire because he sent shrimp over.
You're kidding.
And Dylan loved the fact that they sent shrimp and lobster. They gave him a gold and then a platinum album. I said, wait, he sent shrimp over and gets a platinum album and I engineer his stuff and I can't get anything? I said, don't you know what these records are for? They're for people who actually make the records. But he never would give it to me, so
Yeah.
that's life.
So, Jim, I wanted to ask you about some of the sessions you've done, such as Fandango, ZZ Top.
Right. That was a live album that was done down at the Warehouse in New Orleans.
Mhm.
And I didn't know who they were. They didn't know me, you know. And I remember, though, I was having some political issues with the maintenance guy on the audio truck because he felt like he should have a better position than he had in there. So apparently they told him that, you know, the sound check for the recording was at noon. And he told me it was 2.
Mhm.
So I show up 2 hours late, thinking I'm on time. And he had everything plugged in, and he had cotton on the bass to take the brightness out, and he had a ton of gear plugged in the patch bass and everything. I walked in and I was sort of a little angry and confused about what was going on because at that point I didn't even know I was late, except
Yeah.
I saw everybody else going. And I said, well, what's going on here? And I just, you know, I just took over and I said, I apologized. I don't know, what's the bass player's name? Is that Billy?
Dusty.
Dusty. I don't remember their names.
Yeah.
And I said, I apologize for this, you know, take all that crap off your bass. And I went back in to the truck control room and I pulled all the plugs out of the patch bay and I brought up the bass and I had a direct and a mic and I brought up the drums and I brought up the guitars and everybody went, wow.
Yeah.
It took me 5 minutes to get the thing together. It would take 2 hours to get to where they got to.
Yeah.
And it took me 5 minutes to do it. And then everybody was really happy about it. We did the recording. And the live PA guy was also splitting the mics. He was going to his own Ampex tape machine. And they had microphone preamps in them. Some of the earlier electronics, Ampex 300 and 350 electronics had preamps in them. So he was going right through the input of his deck to his board. So he was recording 16 track also. I had 16 tracks on the truck. So when we went to playback, you know, the band came into the truck after the show, and they, you know, I bring up the mix, and they love it, and everybody's happy. Everybody's patting me on the back, and I was successful. You know? And this guy said, "Do you mind if I play my tape?" And I said, "No, sure, put it up." So we put it up, and he started to mix it. And he says, "Well, mine can never sound as good as yours because you got it." And I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I'm recording the 16 track just like you." And then I took his tape and I mixed it the way I did.
Yeah.
And, you know, I hope I taught him a lesson that day. I think he learned something from it. That you just need to believe in, it's not about the equipment, it's about the band. And if you're paying attention to the band, it doesn't matter what you use.
Did you do the final mix on the record?
I gave them a mix that night. I don't know whether that's the mix they used or not.
Okay. So the album was recorded one live set or 2 sets one night?
Yeah, one night, I remember leaving and they wanted the tapes, and I said, well, I need to get paid. And they said, well, you know, we'll send you the money. I said, no, I said, I can't give you, you know, you have to. And I just sat on the tapes. I said, you know, I know you guys could physically remove me, I said, but I said, I can't give you the tapes without getting paid. So they went and got the money from the door, and they paid me in bags of money. I took it home in cash. So I came walking in and dropped it on the desk. Eddie Germano was the manager at the record plant at the time. I just came in and dropped all these bags of money on his table.
So was that for Columbia? Fandango, or was that post-Columbia, after you were with Columbia?
Wasn't, were they Warner Brothers? What is Fandango? It's right there. What is it, RCA? No, I was doing it for the record plant at the time.
I see.
You know.
Yeah.